1, 2, 3. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Making Waves. Before we get into it, here are some quick messages from us again.
Hello everyone, let it be known that Oregon State University in Corvallis, Oregon is located within the traditional homelands of the Mares Rivers or Ampanefu Band of Kalapuya. Following the Williamette Treaty of 1855, Kalapuya people were forcibly removed to reservations of Western Oregon. Today, living descendants of these people are part of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. And currently, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, which is on the traditional homelands of the Acoma Otham people and the Salt River Maricopa Pima Native community.
Here at Making Waves, we try to illuminate the experience of Asian and Pacific Islanders at Oregon State University. Facilitating dialogue surrounding culture and diversity, we hope to dive into some of the complexities of the Asian and Pacific Islander experience through topics such as pop culture, social identity, and multiculturalism. Among many of the topics we wish to cover, we hope that you can resonate with our story as well as expose yourself to some new ideas and perspectives.
Awesome. So today we have a pretty fun episode, I'd say, and it involves food. Now, I know last season they did an episode on food representation with David from the Global Community Kitchen, and they had conversations surrounding food representation at the dining centers here at OSU, as well as how to improve it and cultural appropriation of food. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, make sure to check it out. This episode, we're doing something a little bit different, and it involves a little mukbang / podcast action. So each of us, we here brought a dish. I guess I'll go first. So I ended up getting Korean food. So I don't know if I can see it on the screen.
Yeah.
I got bulgogi and japchae with some tempura and rice. But yeah, that's what I got.
That sounds so good. So I'll go next. I got, so I'm eating with family later, and so usually when we film is when I usually have like family dinners. So I didn't get a lot of food, but actually it is a lot of food now that I'm looking at it. But I got some crab ragoons. They look so yummy. There's probably around like 8 or a little more in this if you're not watching the video. I also got some veggie spring rolls. So those also look super yummy. Just 2. And then a single egg roll, which is in this little bag, which I'll be eating throughout this video. And a boba. A taro boba. Taro milk tea boba.
Okay, I'll go. So I got sushi. Hold it up to the camera. And I also got, supporting boba head, I got bubble tea, except it's just lychee jelly. And the flavor is guava lime. It's very refreshing. And watch me drink it.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I also got boba from Boba Head. This one is a hibiscus tea with aloe vera and lychee. And then I also got like a smaller snackish thing. I got takoyaki. There's about 5 in here. Yeah, so pretty excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
That looks so good. Could you all tell us where you got your food? So if people are listening and they're in Corvallis, they can go and support those businesses as well. Or even boba.
Yes. Boba is all, like, sponsor us, Boba Head. From Boba Head. Mine is from Segoy Sushi in Corvallis.
Mm-hmm.
My Korean food is from Coriander, so if you're craving Korean food, check them out.
I got the boba from Boba Head as well. And they actually also sell the takoyaki there, so that's where I got that.
Oh, nice. And Boba Head is the new one on Monroe, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's April Teas, I think.
Oh, yeah.
By the Gem on
Yeah, yeah.
Monroe.
No, but we wanted to share where these places are for folks who are interested in the foods. And at this time, since we're in a pandemic, as everyone knows, hence why we're all virtual, we wanted to highlight and showcase Asian-owned businesses in our area. My food is all from Mesa, Arizona. I don't think anyone who listens to this podcast, but if you are, I did get it from Empire in Mesa, Empire Asian Bistro, and then I got my boba from Poke Fusion, which is also in Mesa.
Great. And so for those who haven't connected it yet, food plays such a huge part of a culture and people's identity. And there are so many dishes out there, and they all taste different because of the available dishes and resources that are specific to that region. And so honestly, I'd say food plays such a huge part of our society and just the way that we interact with each other. And honestly, food is just a good time for me. And
too.
so I was kind of curious on, I guess, how is food important to you other than just living, but and how it relates to, I guess, your background and identity.
I can go first. So, I think for most people, I mean, like, when I first heard this question, I was thinking more like the kinds of food I ate. But for me, food plays a huge role in, like, socialization and, like, connecting with my loved ones. Breakfast is always kind of a time for me to, like, wake up and be alone, and I don't really eat lunch a whole lot, but I always make it a point to spend my dinner time with, like, my family. And now that I'm, like, living in an apartment with my roommates, like, I always try to make it a point to connect with my roommates and just, like, have a nice dinner. So for me, like, I wouldn't say, like, I have a strong cultural tie to, like, specific kinds of food. I didn't really grow up with that in my household, but it was always a time that I spent with, like, my loved ones, and so that's something I carry, I guess, with food.
I would say for me it's really important because I've said this in previous episodes too, but I grew up with a single parent who is Native American, but she learned my mom learned how to make Laotian food before my dad left, and so I was raised on Laotian food. She doesn't know how to make. My mom doesn't know how to make any Navajo food, but she knows how to make Laotian food, and it's like what I was raised on, and it's super delicious. And so she did that for us to, like, keep us connected to our Laotian identity. And so I have all of this, like, a lot of my identity revolves around food, my Laotian identity, and I would even say multiracial identity, because, right, like, a lot of people read me differently of, like, oh, you're Native, you're Asian, and so it's like, well, I'm both. And so it really shifts the way that I look at food and how food is important to me. But I've been super connected, not with language, but with food. And so the dishes that, like, my mom would make are, like, so we call it just papaya, but people call it papaya salad, and I found that it was called papaya salad by a white person. And so, like, my whole life, right, like, when your parents call a certain thing, that's all you know, right? And so my dad's family always called it, like, papaya, and so we just called it papaya, right? And so I was like, I don't even know how to describe it to people, like, what papaya is. And then later in life, literally, like, 2 years ago, someone was like, papaya's the fruit, papaya salad is what the spicy dish is, the side dish. And I'm like, okay, chill out. And then and so I've had that experience, which was really interesting. And I don't know if anyone else is familiar with this, but, like, we make a lot of sticky rice in Laotian dishes, and so we have a sticky rice basket. I don't really know the name because that's, like, what I was raised on, right? We just, like, You just make sticky rice with it, a sticky rice maker with this silver bowl, and then you put the basket on top, and you cook the rice on the inside, and you have to flip it. So that's what I'm like used to, but I didn't know the name of that either, right? So I'm like, it's a sticky rice maker. Like, I didn't know. And someone was like, oh, do you mean like a bamboo maker or like a bamboo steamer? I'm like, I don't think so. And so it's really interesting to see the ways in which like food and language are all like kind of intermixed, because I just knew the items based on like what my family would call it, and we would just call it like a sticky rice maker or papaya or like a papaya masher, you know. And so I find it like I'm super connected to that identity, because that's my mom only raised us on that. And as I mentioned on like the first episode, we used to like get sticky rice balls and like dunk it in like the yolk of like sunny side up eggs. So I have a lot of like nostalgic memories with food too.
Nice. That you just reminded me of a story too, but in terms of like how similar when you mentioned on papaya,
Mhm.
I think of sushi, or not necessarily in terms of sushi, but like when you get poke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you ever seen how poke restaurants, they have like spicy ahi poke or whatever
Mm-hmm.
listed on their stuff? Ahi literally in Japanese translates to tuna. So it's like spicy tuna when people list it on their menus. And I'm like, yeah, because ahi means tuna. So I'm like, just call it for what it is. Like, why you gotta...
For real.
Just sounds dumb. But yeah.
I was gonna say something, I forgot.
Mhm.
Come back to me. I forgot for right now.
Okay. But yeah, for mine still, I guess I didn't realize how important food really meant to me until coming to college here in Oregon, because I didn't realize that like when I got here I wouldn't be eating the same foods that I'm used to, you know, like back at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, where's the good Filipino food or the poke that I used to love? Where's my fish?
Especially because you're in
Yeah.
Oregon, there's like no good
Yeah,
food.
exactly. So like that was like one of the biggest culture shocks for me, and like
Me too.
yeah. And so I think it wasn't until coming here was where I started learning how to like really cook, because I wanted to eat those foods that I'm used to again, and like just calling them like my mom, like, Mom, what's the recipe? How do I make this again? Just so that I can have that comfort, you know, because it's just, yeah, the food's just not the same. But yeah, that would be for me. It's
Yeah, and I think
culture
it's
shock, man.
also hard too, because like there are no like Laotian restaurants in Corvallis. There's Thai, which is like really close, and a little history. A lot of Thai food is adapted from Laotian food, because everything got passed downward. And so like you'll see in Thai restaurants that they have papaya salad, and I was talking about papaya salad because it was traded essentially, or like a skill that was learned from both countries. And if you don't know, Laos is literally right next to and above Laos. No, Thailand is
Thailand.
below. Yes, Laos
Pull up a map.
is right on top of Thailand. Yes, if you look at a map northwards. And so it's hard because I'm like, I don't know of any. One, I can't go to a restaurant and enjoy my food. Two, I have to cook it myself. And three, like, I have to find an Asian restaurant or Asian grocery store that like has the stuff I use to make food.
But for me, growing up, especially I guess in my household, since both my parents are mixed, my mom is Peruvian Chinese and my dad is Cambodian Chinese, I definitely grew up, I guess you would call it like fusion food. So it's never like traditional. I mean, they might have like traditional, but there's always kind of like a spin to it. So it was kind of nice growing up with having like traditional Cambodian food and traditional Peruvian food, but then like usually growing up they just kind of like mix it all together, and like when my dad cooks or my mom cooks they just like make whatever. So it's like a mix, which is kind of cool. But especially like growing up in Oregon, there is not as many like, Portland has some good fusion, I think, restaurants. Some of them are popular. But like not as like popular as if you go to San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
And then there's like, that's where all like the good food is. So, I mean, it would be nice if like Portland had, or like Oregon has as much, especially Corvallis. I feel like Corvallis doesn't have a lot.